It was a little past 3 in the morning when Detective Rafael Torres arrived at Kilometer 47 of the MG050 highway. The night was cold, heavy, and a thick fog spread across the road like a quiet warning. The small abandoned house beside the highway looked even more isolated under the pale headlights of the patrol car. Rafael stepped out slowly, feeling the damp air cling to his coat. The call had come from a frightened truck driver who saw the front door open and suspected something very wrong had happened inside. Rafael approached the entrance. The wooden door was cracked, forced open. He pushed it gently and walked in, lighting the room with his flashlight. The first thing he noticed was the strong smell of fresh coffee. On the simple table in the center of the room, a cup was still hot, steam rising in a thin line, as if someone had just left the place seconds earlier. On the floor near the table lay the body of Mateus Linhares, a 21-year-old young man. He was lying on his side, completely still. There were no signs of a fight, no broken furniture, no overturned objects. It looked like Mateus had simply collapsed or trusted the person who stood next to it. A few minutes later, Izzy, the team's tech analyst, entered holding her laptop. "Rafael," she said, looking around the room, "this house hasn't had electricity for weeks." She touched the loose wires near the wall. "Whoever brought that coffee brought it ready. This place wasn't used." Right then, Marcone, the behavioral specialist, kneeled beside the body. His eyes scanned every detail with calm precision. "No defensive wounds," he said quietly. "Nothing on the arms, nothing on the hands." He looked up at Rafael. He didn't expect danger. He trusted someone. Rafael turned his attention back to the steaming cup. That single detail said more than any wound could. While checking the victim's pockets, Izzy found a folded piece of paper. "Look at this," she said, handing it to Rafael. "It's a toll ticket. Timestamp, 10:14 p.m. Rafael frowned. But the truck driver found the body at 10:52. Mateus couldn't have reached this place that fast. Izzy sighed. "Meaning he didn't come here alone," Marcone added. "Or someone wanted it to look like he did." Neither possibility was good. The next morning, the team returned to the small town where Mateus had lived. A quiet place, with narrow streets and early sunlight falling softly over the houses. But Rafael knew well, quiet towns often hid the deepest secret. With only a few questions around the neighborhood, 3 names surfaced quickly. People who had been close to Mateus in the days before his death. Carla Menezes, his ex-girlfriend. Father Augusto, the last person to speak with him. Jorge Tadeo, owner of a scrapyard with a questionable reputation. Carla was the first stop. She opened the door nervously, her hands shaking just enough for Marcone to notice. "I didn't see Mateus last night," she said immediately, before anyone asked a thing. "We weren't together anymore. I wasn't involved in anything he did." As she spoke, Marcone's eyes quietly scanned her gestures. He noticed how she kept pulling down the sleeve of her sweater, as if hiding something. "Your bracelet," Marcone said calmly. "Is it broken?" Carla froze, only for a second, but long enough. She quickly tried to cover the wrist again. Rafael reached into his pocket and pulled out a small golden fragment. "We found this inside the house," he said, his voice steady, "right beside Mateus." Carla's face went pale. She didn't speak, didn't deny, didn't defend herself. Sometimes silence said everything. The second visit was to the town's church. Father Augusto arranged candles on the altar when they arrived. His movements were soft, measured, too measured. "Mateus came to see me yesterday," the priest said with a calm voice. "He said he had seen something dangerous, something that could hurt a lot of people." "Did he tell you what it was?" Rafael asked. "Not in detail," the priest replied, "but he was scared. He said he no longer trusted anyone, not even the police." While the priest spoke, Marcone didn't take his eyes off him. He watched the pauses, the breathing, the way the priest kept his hands pressed together. When they stepped outside, Marcone leaned closer to Rafael. "He's hiding something," he said. "He's trying too hard to look calm. That alone is suspicious." Their last stop was Jorge Tadeo's scrapyard. The place smelled like rust, oil, and burnt metal. Cars stacked on top of each other formed twisted walls around them. Jorge sat on the hood of an old car, smoking, with a slow grin spreading across his face. "Mateus was just a kid," Jorge said. "Got involved with the wrong people, but I didn't do anything to him." "Did he owe you money?" Rafael asked. Jorge shrugged. "Everyone owes something, but killing him? No, I only run my business." Marcone stepped closer, close enough for Jorge to stop smiling. "Your business leaves a lot of dirty footprints," Marcone said, "and you've been stepping everywhere." For the first time, Jorge's grin faded. Just a little, but enough for the team to notice. With the initial interviews done, the next step was clear. Izzy needed to dig deeper into Mateus's phone. A few minutes later, she called Rafael and Marcone to her side. "Guys," she said, eyes fixed on the screen, "I found something, and it changes everything." Izzy had managed to recover several deleted files from Mateus's phone. When Rafael and Marcon approached her desk, she turned the screen toward them. "Look at this," she said. Her voice carried a tension that only appeared when something serious was unfolding. The screen showed a series of videos recorded on the MG050 at night motorcycles, racing along the empty road. Engines roaring, people shouting bets in the background, fast lights cutting the darkness. These were illegal street races, and not small ones. This was an organized operation. Mateus appeared in several of the videos, sometimes holding the camera, sometimes talking to riders, sometimes writing something down. "He wasn't just watching," Izzy explained. "He was helping run the events." Rafael asked, "Who else shows up in the footage?" Izzy paused the video and zoomed in first. Carla, holding a clipboard and directing some of the racers. Then Jorge, collecting money from a group of men. And farther in the background, harder to notice, Father Augusto, giving a blessing gesture before the race started. Marcon stared at the screen for a long moment. "They weren't just connected to Mateus," he said. "They were connected to each other. This is a group." Izzy nodded and continued scrolling. "There's more," she added. "Look at these transactions." She opened a list of bank transfers, large amounts, sent and received repeatedly through fake accounts, using numbers linked to Jorge's scrapyard and other suspicious contacts. Rafael murmured, "Money laundering. The races were a cover." Izzy confirmed. Mateus found out, and he tried to talk to someone about it, but he didn't realize how dangerous that was. The team then reconstructed the young man's final hours. Mateus had called Carla late in the evening. His voice sounded desperate in the messages recovered by Izzy. Carla agreed to meet him, but she didn't go alone. She alerted Jorge, and the priest appeared too, likely trying to keep control of the situation. 3 people, all tied to the same illegal scheme, meeting one frightened young man in an abandoned house on a fog-covered highway. Rafael imagined the scene. Mateus arrives, scared, asking for help, thinking at least one of them would listen. A cup of coffee is offered, steam rising. A quiet conversation begins, and then darkness. The team now understood the structure of the crime, but they still needed to understand the final trigger. What pushed the killers to act at that exact moment? Izzy leaned over the small evidence bag containing the coffee cup. "The smell is strong," she said. "This wasn't just coffee. Something was mixed in." Marcon examined the handle of the cup. "There are fingerprints here," he said. "Large hands, and whoever held this cup wasn't shaking. It was someone used to performing precise gestures." Rafael looked at him. "Someone who regularly hands things to people?" Marcon nodded. "Exactly." They exchanged a silent look. The truth was closing in. The lab results came back faster than expected. Izzy placed the report on the table and spoke clearly. This wasn't a normal sedative. It was a strong, fast-acting drug, enough to knock someone out in minutes. Rafael stared at the coffee cup on the evidence tray. "He drank it willingly," he said. "He believed he was safe." Marcon kept examining the cup, especially the marks near the handle. "The prints are clear," he said. "Whoever held this cup positioned their fingers with precision, like someone offering comfort." Rafael looked straight at him. "Like a priest offering communion?" Marcon didn't answer with words, only with a small nod. And in that silent moment, the last missing piece began to settle into place. But there was still one question. Why that night? Why did they choose to silence Mateus then? Izzy continued digging through the recovered data. She found voice notes, fragments of messages, and screenshots that Mateus had saved but never sent. Then she found an audio file. She pressed play. Mateus's voice came through, frightened, whispering, "If anything happens to me, it wasn't an accident. There are important people involved. I'm going to tell the truth. I don't care what they do. I'm tired of being quiet." The room fell into a heavy silence. Rafael lowered his head. He was trying to do the right thing, he said, and he had no idea how dangerous that was. Marcon crossed his arms. They all had something to lose. Carla helped organize the races. Jorge handled the money, and the priest kept everything clean, socially protected by his position. Izzy added, "If Mateus talked, the entire operation would collapse." Rafael closed the laptop slowly. "It makes sense," he said. "They didn't plan to scare him. They planned to silence him. With the evidence fully aligned, it was time to act." The team prepared the warrants. Every detail had to be precise, every step calculated. The sun was beginning to set, painting the town in orange and gold, the kind of peaceful light that contrasted harshly with the weight of what was about to happen. Rafael stood up, checked the documents one last time, and looked at his partners. "It's time," he said. Marcon nodded. Izzy closed her laptop and took a deep breath. Their next moves would determine everything. The first arrest was Carla Meneses. She opened the door with trembling hands, her eyes red, as if she hadn't slept. Rafael showed the warrant, and she didn't resist. Marcone placed the cuffs gently on her wrists. As they walked her to the car, Carla began to cry. "I didn't want him to die," she said between sobs. "I just wanted him to stop talking, to stop threatening to expose us." Rafael looked at her through the open car door. "But you called Jorge," he said. "And somehow the priest ended up there too." Carla lowered her head. She didn't argue. She didn't deny. Her silence was loud enough. The second arrest was different. Colder Father Augusto stepped out of the church with slow, careful movement. When Rafael showed the warrant, the priest simply sighed. "I see you've made up your minds," he said, "but you're wrong about me." Rafael reached into a folder and pulled out a photo, the coffee cup, and the fingerprint lifted from the handle. "It's your," Rafael said quietly. For the first time, the priest's expression cracked. His calm facade faded. Marcone noticed immediately. "It's over," Marcone said. "No more blessings can help you." The priest didn't fight back. He let the cuffs close around his wrists. The last arrest was the most chaotic. Jorge Tadeo, spotting the police cars, tried to escape through the back of the scrapyard. He ran between piles of crushed metal, knocking tools aside, stumbling over parts of old engines. But Marcone was faster. He sprinted across the yard, climbed onto a stack of car frames, and jumped down in front of Jorge, tackling him to the ground. Dust and rust filled the air as the two hit the floor. "Running won't help," Marcone said, locking Jorge's arms behind his back. "It only makes you look guiltier." Jorge clenched his jaw. "You can't prove anything," he shouted. "This is all made up." Rafael stepped forward, calm and steady. "We have everything," he said. "Your money trails, your messages, your presence at the races, and now, your attempt to flee." Jorge looked away, defeated. The scrapyard fell silent. With all three suspects arrested, the weight of the case began to lift, but not completely. On the ride back, the sun had already set. Only the headlights cut through the darkness as the team drove toward their base. Izzy sat in the back seat, staring out at the shadowy road. "He was just scared," she said softly. "He wanted help, not trouble." Marcone nodded from the passenger seat. "Sometimes doing the right thing costs more than people expect." Rafael kept his eyes on the road. "But at least now the truth is out," he said, "and justice can begin." The car continued forward, the night calm and quiet, a sharp contrast to the storm they had just uncovered. Back at the Brazil crime unit, the team carried the evidence boxes inside. The room was quiet, lit only by the cold blue glow of the overhead lamps. Papers, photos, and reports covered the tables, forming the final pieces of the story they had just untangled. Rafael sat down at the main desk. He placed the toll ticket on the right, the photo of the coffee cup on the left, and in the center, a printed picture of Mateus. He stared at it for a moment, a young man who tried to do the right thing, a young man who trusted the wrong people. "Let's finish this," Rafael said. Izzy opened her laptop and began organizing the digital files. Videos, messages, deleted audio notes, bank transfers. Everything now had a place. Marcone reviewed the statements they gathered throughout the day. His voice was quiet as he read. "He went to that house thinking he'd get help." Rafael nodded. "He didn't understand how deep the scheme was. He didn't see how far they were willing to go to protect themselves." He turned to a blank page of the final report and began writing. "Mateus Linhares was taken to Kilometer 47 by individuals he trusted. The coffee presented to him contained a high-dose sedative. The act was intentional, coordinated, and aimed at silencing him." When he finished, he signed at the bottom, "Detective Rafael Torres, Brazil Crime Unit." He closed the folder. The sound echoed softly in the empty room. A short time later, the three walked out of the building into the parking lot. The night had settled fully now. Warm and still, stars spread across the sky like quiet witnesses. Izzy looked up. "Do you think there are more cases like this out there?" she asked. Rafael let out a tired but honest breath. "In Brazil," he said, "there's always another hidden file." Marcone crossed his arms, staring out at the dark horizon. "The important thing is that this one didn't stay buried," he said. "Mateus deserved the truth." Rafael opened the car door, paused, and looked back at the building. "Case file 1, he said quietly, "closed." The car pulled out of the parking lot and disappeared into the night. But Rafael knew this was only the beginning. More stories would come. More secrets would emerge from the quiet corners of the country. More truths would demand to be uncovered. Because in Brazil, nothing stays hidden forever.